Norm?
Hey, John, how are you, man?
Oh, I'm good. It's always good to see you. It's been a while.
It has, man.
I was looking at some of the interviews that we've done on For Bass Players Only. This is actually the fourth time you've been interviewed on ForBassPlayersOnly.com. The last one was in 2016. And then we did one before that in 2013. And then we did one all the way back just after the beginning of the world in 2010.
Wow. Thanks for your ongoing interest, sir. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for being so interesting and giving our audience good stuff to listen to. So, you and I go back a long way, but there's always something cool, big time, far out news. There's always something to talk about. This time around, I assume you want to talk about sushi, grooves and sushi.
That is definitely something that's been occupying quite a bit of my life over the last, strangely, like probably 4 years.
I think you kind of hinted at it in the last interview that you were about to embark on something. You couldn't give me a lot of details, but I've been checking it out. It is a big project. Tell us what is Grooves and Sushi? What is it all about?
Well, Grooves and Sushi, the short version is that it's my my latest solo or project as a leader. I don't like to say solo project because it's not all bass solos, but yeah, I did Pondering the Sushi back in 2001, Tea of the Typhoon in 2009, and this is my third project as a leader. But it ended up being much more than it was originally intended to be. The short version, I guess it's already beyond the short version. The medium version is that I was thinking, yeah, we did kind of a proof of concept recording session to see if I can get a decent drum sound in my house, which I was able to get a decent drum sound in my house. So we kind of decided, okay, this next project, we're going to go ahead and track it all in my house. We're going to track it live. And hey, since we have everybody here tracking it live, why don't we go ahead and, how much more trouble could it be to just add video, So we'll have guys shooting it. And the answer to that, question is it adds exponentially to the difficulty at every stage, So, but yeah, so it ended up being, it was all shot live, and I brought a sushi chef, an amazing sushi chef named Kevin Garrison, to my house on 3 of the 4 shoots. The 4th shoot, we ended up doing it offsite because by that point, COVID was a thing, and I couldn't do it in a responsible way in my house. So we did that.
Oh, so this goes way back. You started this a long time ago.
That first sort of proof of concept session with the drummer was back in 2017. Yeah. So it ended up being a web series and a CD, and the Deluxe Edition is it's actually right here. But Deluxe Edition is a USB, and but with album art and liner notes and the whole thing. And but yeah,
I was surprised. I think a lot of other people were too. When you open it up, it looks like it's going to be a DVD, and there's a flash drive inside.
So the deal is that, and you're going to be able to relate to this because you're a content creator from a long time ago, as I am. And when I first started this project, I thought because I have instructional DVDs and the whole thing, I was thinking, yeah, when this is all done, we'll release it as a DVD as well. And halfway through this project, I was informed that a standard DVD cannot accommodate HD resolution. I think 480p is the highest that a regular DVD can take. So it was either dumb everything down to 480p or do something else. And but DVDs in general are kind of going away, so it just seemed like the best compromise was to do a USB. And the cool thing is it's a 32 gig USB, and it's got not only this project, all the episodes, all the song performance videos, but it has all of my other CDs as well, and my instructional videos. It's all there on one thing. So it's kind of
I've been checking it out. The production quality is beautiful. It is gorgeous. For anybody that doesn't know, Norm is sitting around the table with Greg Bissonette and all the other guys in the band talking about music, talking about things in their life, talking about history, things that happened, cool stories, all the while eating sushi. There's a sushi chef standing there making food all the time. This is something I've never seen before.
You're making me hungry again. Yeah. So the deal is, and I don't claim that this is my original concept. This is, as many things go in the creative world, most of the time people hear or see something that inspires them and they kind of go, man, that's really cool. If I did that, I would do it this way, and that would kind of make it my own thing. Well, this was directly inspired. Some of your listeners will know this, but Live from Daryl's House. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
This is a sushi-based instrumental music version of Live from Daryl's House. So it's basically inviting people to my home. We make music, and then at the end of it, we have a meal and we talk road stories and thoughts on, life, creativity, art, the whole thing, funny things that people have learned on the road. But I was going somewhere with that. I need more caffeine, I think.
Well, you remind me, when you say Daryl, people know who you mean. And when you say Daryl Hall, people know who you mean. When you say John Oates, people always have to say, from Hall and Oates.
Yeah.
But how did you go about choosing the band?
These are players. Oh, the part I was going to say, by the way, I just remembered, was the additional sort of interesting wrinkle was that this music had never been, in each of the sessions, the music had never been performed before. It had just been kind of demoed up by mostly me and a couple of friends. But it had never been performed before. And these recordings are the first, basically, once we got sounds, we started recording and shooting. So you're really watching a group of musicians discovering the music as they go. None of us, including myself, had ever heard this, So that was a really fun additional sort of live without a net sort of approach to it. But the players themselves, I have a pretty diverse range of stuff that I like to listen to. And even though people that maybe know my music from my solo stuff would think, oh, he's a jazz fusion guy or whatever. And that's actually a very small part of the stuff that I enjoy about music. I certainly like that as well, but I like a lot of rock stuff. I like a lot of R&B. I like a lot of funk. I mean, there's lots of bass players. I think this isn't common to, specific to me, but I always thought how interesting it would be to approach sort of contemporary jazz fusion types of tunes with a lot of sonic influences from other areas, so kind of maybe approaching the rhythm section in more of a rock kind of a way. And so I was thinking about different diverse ranges of players that I like and enjoy their stuff, and thinking, how would this group of players interpret this song? Because if I brought in just a standard group of fusion guys, they'd play this song and it would be great, and it would be kind of just what you were expecting. And the friends that I brought in were, aside from many of them being kind of iconic, household name types of players, that it's always just an honor just to see them create and do what they do. It was also like, Brandon Phillips, my amazing trumpet player. He has a pedal board, and the first time I was working with him, and I was thinking, I was kind of explaining the vision of the project, and I said, hey, and some of this, I really don't want it to be very polite. I'd like it to be sort of in your face and a little bit weird and kind of, and as soon as I started saying, they said, oh, dude, I've got a pedal board. I could take this as outside as you want it, And so, yeah, when you listen to the project, I think it's pretty clear that, you've got the keyboard player from One Direction. He's got his own bag. He's not really a jazzer at all, but he's got his own bag. But then you've got Greg Bissonette, or, Mark Lettieri, or Chris Coleman, or Zorro. There's all these amazing players that bring their own thing to it, And so, yeah, I'm elated with how it turned out. And I'm extra elated because it could have turned out kind of bad because it was utterly untested, So that's,
well, you
I
got to
guess,
take
testimony
risks.
to what ends up happening when you have really extremely capable, sensitive musicians that are listening to each other and kind of injecting their own thing, but also responding to what else is going on. It was really, for me, it was probably the pinnacle of my musical experiences
So far. And if somebody wants to get it, where can they get it?
Well, it's on all the streaming services. I won't lament about how the streaming services have been to independent musicians, but suffice to say that it's also available directly from me. If you currently, if you go to groovesandsushi.com, then there's a store there, and it has CD if you want a CD, or the Deluxe Edition USB that has all the things I mentioned. So that's probably that's certainly the most appreciated way, because that way there's not a middle person taking a big chunk.
I understand very well. Well, not that that's not a huge undertaking, but what else is keeping you busy, Norm?
Yeah, I remain the electric bass teacher at Biola University in LA. And so that's the semester's kicking back in, and that is definitely, it's not a full-time thing, but it's keeping me busy enough. And then I do private teaching on the side. I think, as with most musicians right now, there's not a ton of road work going on. I'm kind of hesitant to even try to book things right now, because I think there's so much potential for things being canceled at the last minute, and I just don't have the time to pursue something like that and then have it dropped. So yeah, I'm doing lots of teaching and sessions here and there. And honestly, from last summer till about 2 weeks ago, it was 15-hour days, almost nonstop, just trying to get the project done. So right now, I'm just taking a great big deep inhalation of and exhalation of actually having a little bit of free time. So, but yeah, the teaching thing has been keeping me busy as well. And I also play at a number of churches here in Southern California, so that's usually weekends. So
you are you've always been a passionate educator. And, we touched on this a little bit, but I want to ask it in a different way. I want to ask you what advice you have for somebody who wants to learn bass. And last time we were talking about from a career-oriented standpoint. I remember your exact words. We were sitting on outside the room at Summer NAMM in Nashville, outside the big hall, and you said, "Run for your life." But I want to ask you, if somebody's not career oriented and they just want to play the bass and they want to get together with their friends and play some classic rock riffs or some blues shuffles, or just to get together and have fun, maybe they're older, they're retired maybe, or they've dabbled in it. They've always wanted to do it. They can kind of play the bass, but they want to learn and they want to have fun. So in that context, what advice do you have for someone who wants to learn to play bass? What do you think is important for them to know?
Well, you're talking for the student, advice for the student. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I have my thoughts from the educator standpoint as well. But yeah, I think for the most part, my biggest encouragement is for somebody to be willing to eat their veggies for a little bit, for a payoff just slightly down the road. And by that, I mean, there's a lot of self-taught players, and I am a self-taught player. I was a self-taught player for many, many years. And then it was later on, and I guess I'm still largely self-taught, but I went back and kind of learned music theory and learned to read and things well after I had been playing for, well over a decade probably. And so I think there's a tendency with self-taught players to think that they don't really need to know anything about theory or anything about, the language of music because they just want to jam. And while I understand that, I think most of the students that I take on as private students, I'm sort of casting some vision for them. It's like, hey, learning diatonic harmony is not that hard. And once you have it, it will be incredibly helpful for you to be able to then take that and parlay that into other areas of your musical growth. You know, if you have a passion for music enough to go and take lessons with somebody, then my encouragement is, hey, dig in, spend a little bit of time learning the language of music, learning diatonic harmony, and then you'll realize, oh, that's why I've always gone with this fingering, because it results in this mode, which is, you know, now it all makes sense. You know, it's kind of explaining why something has always worked by ear, but now you understand the structure behind it. I know when people used to talk about modes before I knew them, the eyes would kind of glaze over, and it's like, yeah, you know, I just want to groove, or I just want to rock, you know. And but now I can see that knowledge allowed me to be able to write music. It allowed me to be able to rearrange songs. It allowed me to express myself in a much deeper way than I could when it was entirely by ear, you know. So that's probably the main thing. From an educator standpoint, for any teachers that are out there, I think the main thing that I've learned in recent years is that if you don't keep it fun for the student, they won't stick with it. And so while I do encourage my students, you know, hey, especially when they're early on and just kind of starting out, it's like, hey, hang in there, dig into the veggies part of this, and in short order, we're going to be getting to the fun stuff. And I used to that was the bulk of my curriculum, was let's just eat the veggies and then we'll go from there. And what I've discovered, especially teaching at Biola, is that if you don't keep it fun, then they won't stick with it nearly as much as they would if you mix the two. So I always have a fun part of the lesson where it's like, yeah, you know, whatever the students' preferences are, you know, if they really like a certain type of music or a certain song, or they like a certain technique, you know, hey, let's kind of mess with that slap thing, you know. But I'm always trying to kind of mix that in and undergird that with the meat and potatoes, because at the end of the day, you know, especially in a collegiate environment, most of these people are commercial music majors, and if they're going to be doing music commercially after their college experience, then they're going to need some of this foundational knowledge, you know. So
there's a sweet spot in there. Find
that
balance. Tell me about your gear. Anything new there? Basses, strings, effects?
Yeah, you know, let's see, we last spoke in 2016. I am still.
That was the last interview we did. We've spoken since then.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I'm still absolutely head over heels over MTD basses and Gallien-Kruger amplification. As a matter of fact, that's something I've been doing. Several years ago, before the pandemic, I was in the process of putting together a making of the Norm Stockton edition MTD bass video.
Let's make sure everybody gets that MTD, Michael Tobias design. Let's make sure that they hear that nice and clear.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I am elated to have been associated with MTD basses since the late 90s. And yeah, I'm even more elated and humbled and honored to be one of the artists that he's built a signature model for. And it's called the Norm Stockton Artist Edition bass. It's Michael Tobias's version of a jazz bass fundamentally, but it has some proprietary features that are unique to me. And the idea behind the design was making it where I could do the rock thing and I can do the fusion thing and just take one bass on the road if I had to do that range of playing. And, you know, so the bass ended up being extremely versatile. And so bottom line is that there's a video already that kind of explains the bass in some detail, but I thought it'd be fun to have to kind of show people the actual construction from literally from, you know, picking out the wood for the top to the final setup. And then I've had a lot of people asking me over the years, you know, what are my settings? And so there's a whole section at the end where I go through the settings that I use. But that video will probably be on YouTube in the next few months. But yeah, since then, I have, Michael built me his version of a P bass. It's entirely passive. It's a 4-string, and I use that a bunch on Lincoln Brewster's mostly acoustic Christmas album. This is the 4-string version of the Norm Stockton Artist Edition bass.
It looks like a Norm Stockton MTD bass.
Yeah, it's really fabulous. Otherwise, I've been working for many years with groove gear and sinusoid cables and backbeat. Actually, that's something that I probably wasn't using last time we did an interview. The backbeat is, you're probably familiar with, but I'm not sure if all your listeners are, or viewers. It's essentially a stage shaker, but it's on your strap. So they call it a wearable portable subwoofer. Wow. And especially if you use in-ear monitors, which by the way, with listening my endorsement relationships, I'm a 64 audio guy. I love I use their A18s. But if you're using in-ear monitors, then it can sound great, but there's this visceral thing that you experience when there's an actual amp shaking the stage a little bit when you're playing, you know, as a bass player. It makes you play differently when things are kind of vibrating. And anybody who uses in-ear monitors knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's the thing that goes away when you use in-ear monitors. And so this backbeat, it's on your strap and you plug into it. And I actually run mine a different way just because I'm a little anal about this kind of stuff. I tend to run my bass into the DI and then from the through of the DI into the backbeat, you know, but you can run it either way. You can go through the backbeat entirely. But yeah, so suffice to say that when you play low notes, especially, it shakes and it kind of gives the sensation that you're moving a bunch of air, and it's awesome. If you've not experienced it, you definitely need to.
I've experienced the kind that you stand on, but not. I didn't even know there was a version in the strap.
Yeah.
That's
so it's a similar sensation, but it goes with you when you're walking around. So,
wow. I think it was Dave Swift who plays for the Jules Holland show in London. I think it was at a London bass guitar show or something. I don't know. Are you still using the Tech 21 stuff, the Sans amp?
I do. I don't have a formal relationship with the company at all, but I was using the Sans amp, sort of interchanging the Sans amp with Aguilar, the TLC compressor and the tone hammer. So sometimes I use one set and sometimes I just use the Sans amp by itself, but yeah.
What kind of strings do you play?
I'm so glad you're going through this because invariably I get to the end of this and I'd watch this video and go, I didn't mention Dunlop. Yes, I should probably check my list and make sure I'm not ignoring anybody. I love all of my sponsors. I am so, I'm elated and honored to be using and associated with the manufacturers that sponsor me. None of them are sponsors that we have, you know, none of them are people that I have a relationship with because of they give me gear. It's all because I love their gear and then we have a symbiotic relationship. So, but yeah, I've been using Dunlop strings now for probably about 4 years-ish. And yeah, I use the super bright stainless steel round wounds and with the taper core B and 45 to 130 usually, although I think on the recording I was going back and forth between 130 and 125. I think some of the songs are recorded with some and some with the other, but
I assume you're talking about a 5-string and a low B,
5-string.
right?
They're all 5.
Because that'd be awfully thick for an E string.
It would.
What about the future, Norm? Anything else coming up that you haven't touched on yet?
Yeah.
Or what else would you like to do?
I would love for the pandemic to end and for us to resume life so that
I'll make some calls. I'll see what I can do.
If we can accomplish that, then we're dialed. Yeah, I feel like my days of road work just seem like a lifetime ago, and I definitely miss it. So yeah, that resuming would be great. But otherwise, people that have been following the project will probably roll their eyes because this project is the only one that's been longer than Grooves and Sushi. Lincoln Brewster's instrumental album. We started working on that in 2013, and Vinny Colaiuta played drums. And I am really, for the last however many years, I've been so excited for this to come out. And it's been 95-ish% done for years, but that last 5% is just extremely time consuming, and it gets put on the back burner and put on the back burner. Lincoln and I have been in touch, and we are determined to get it completed this spring. So God willing, that will happen. And I can't wait for people to hear it. On his last album, the Deluxe Edition, one of the songs was included there, and the feedback's been great. People are definitely chomping at the bit to get the rest of it. So yeah, it would be awesome to be able to get that thing done and get it out there so that people can enjoy the music that we've been talking about for 8 years.
Wow.
But yeah, other than that, pretty much, yeah, I think I may consider embarking on another project at some point, but right now I am enjoying not having the weight on my shoulders of Grooves and Sushi just got done. I feel like it expresses artistically what I wanted to, and I'm going to take a deep breath and relax.
And you should. Well deserved. It is great. I'm so glad you sent it to me. I've been enjoying it very much, and watching it. You know what? I prepare for. I've done an interview every single week since June 15th, 2009. So I'm always preparing, and you get it down to a system. There's only so much time that you're going to allot to preparing for an interview. I couldn't stop watching your video with all the guys sitting around. And I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched more than one episode. I watched at least 2 or 3, and just getting the background, the stories, and what makes it so alluring is the production. Like I said before, it's just gorgeous. The video production and the audio production. So
thanks, John.
I spread the word, and I recommend it highly. Anything Norm puts out is good. This is especially good. So I hope it does real well for you.
I hugely appreciate that. Yeah, I'm really grateful that in this current day and age, especially with the state of technology and merch not really selling that well, I think most people that used to sell DVDs and videos and things like that have noticed a dramatic decrease in recent years because that medium is going away. You don't go to the store and buy a computer and have a drive that you can just throw a CD or DVD into. And so this project was definitely one where it's like, I wonder if this is going to sell, and the deluxe editions have been flying out the door, and I'm super grateful. And the feedback I've been getting has been super positive. So I'm glad. I'm just gratified that all the work that went into it, people are enjoying it and finding it worthwhile. So, but thank you for your kind words. I'm really, I don't take that lightly. I'm super appreciative of that.
Well, they are sincere. And I know what you mean about merch. And by the way, on another subject, I still have 2 Blu-ray versions of the Jocko documentary. If anybody wants those, they've been sitting on the inventory there. So
Blu-ray is, strangely, that's one of the mediums that is still around, right? Because you can put it into an Xbox or something. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Norm, this has been great. Let's not wait another, I don't know how many years till we do this again. And as long as you keep doing interesting stuff, we'll have you back and we'll share that with our audience and spread the word and let everybody know what wonderful things you're doing in the music world and in the bass world.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
All right. You take care, my friend. And let's plan to see each other at Winter NAMM, which is in June this year,
Awesome.
January. So we'll see you then. Thanks so much, my friend. You take care now.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.